Caitlin.
Yes, our welcome to our cursed knit along, week 3.
How do you watch? Here's a question. I've never watched the. Oh, here we go.
Just click on it and then the comments, but you'll have to mute it.
I did mute it already.
Wonderful.
I'm good enough at that part.
I was prepared to write a big note. Mute your computer. Yeah. So welcome back, everybody. Katie is my lovely co-host this evening because I don't know how to do the YouTubes, and Katie does. Katie's very good.
Absolutely sound like an elder millennial.
That's because I am.
I don't know how to do the YouTubes.
No, I did know how to do the YouTubes when I was like in early university, but I have since forgotten it.
Well, and everything changes.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I've got no idea. I also can't do Instagram Live very easily.
Yes. So Emily wasn't feeling well last week. Caitlin is not feeling well this week. We didn't want you folks to miss out on the lives, so I offered to sit in. I have zero knitting. That's not true.
No,
I
it's
have
not true.
a modicum of knitting knowledge, but I'm going to handle the comments, and Emily is going to do all the knitting magic. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right. So, welcome back, everybody.
right.
Let's recap what we've done so far. So far, we have cast on. We have done our short rows for the back of the neck. We have done our raglan increases. Katie says she has no knitting experience. She's got knitting
I got
experience.
some knitting experience.
She has
I'm
a
trying.
Felix in progress.
Yes.
So ideally, at some point, when you reference this video, you will have. Oh.
So you keep going. I have a question.
At some point, when you watch this video, you will have hit the point where it's time to split for the sleeves and the body.
So my question is, it says in the pattern to measure from the back, however many inches it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And my question is, when you do that, are you supposed to like stretch out your knitting, or just sort of like you don't want to like stretch it, obviously, but just sort of like flatten it a little bit. Okay.
Because the stockinette fabric will have this instinct to kind of curl a little bit.
Yes.
If you want the most accurate read, you could put your stitches on what we call a lifeline, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes.
Or you could put it on a much longer needle and then just have it on the cable, and then it's easier to sort of lie it flat.
Gotcha.
When it's on the smaller needle, it's a little harder.
Gotcha.
The shorter, I should say, shorter needle. But yes, you just kind of want to lay it flat. You don't want to stretch because that's going to be like a cheater measurement.
Right, and then your sweater's going to be too short for you.
Exactly. So just do the extra work. It's worth it, I promise. And that would be how you do it. You just grab your measuring tape. Can I borrow yours for a
Yes,
second?
absolutely.
And so in the back,
you got to hold it a little bit higher.
In the back section, you grab, you layer it flat without stretching. So lay it flat. Put your measuring tape up here and measure down. And then when you can count the stitch that's on the needle.
Okay.
Yeah. So that can be included. And that's kind of important for something at this gauge because we're working with a fairly thick yarn. So that extra stitch is going to actually really count for something.
Right, as opposed to like a fingering weight, which is sort of...
It's like, oh no, I've knit an extra row.
Yes.
I mean, even at this point, one extra row is not going to be a big deal.
Right.
But you don't want to have like really droopy armpits if you can avoid it.
Right. And I guess the other thing is we've got 5 people watching, and I think one of those 5 people is me. Because I've got the laptop going down here because I can't see that far away to read comments.
I have one dilated pupil. There's absolutely no way. There's no way.
We're like half a good eye between the two of us.
Oh, yeah. First, I tell you.
Right? Does anybody have any questions before? Oh, and Caitlin is watching. Caitlin. Excellent. We hope you're feeling better. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions before we go on to the next step? Because that's pop them in the chat, and Emily will answer them because you know all things.
I know many, but I do not know all. That is for sure. Ask anybody I work for.
How are we so awesome? I don't
know. Caitlin, you can't do that. You have to do it under a different name so that nobody knows. All right. So let's hop in then and talk about splitting for the sleeves. This is mine. Felix, I wore it here. I'm still just a little bit too warm to wear it on camera. So at this point, you want to have knit the yoke, the top part of your sweater, exactly. And when you are ready to split for the sleeve, so when you've reached that measurement as dictated in the pattern,
Yep.
you are going to, so right now you have all these stitches on your needle.
Gotcha. Yes.
And so you need to separate these ones for your sleeve.
Okay.
These ones for your sleeve, but keep these guys
to go round, round, and round.
Exactly. Yes. And in addition, we're going to cast on a few stitches under the arm to give, to sort of join that fabric.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not quite enough to just use the stitches that are already on the needle. You need to add some at the underside so that it fits correctly.
And I was reading ahead because I was like, I'm gonna have questions, and this terrifies me and mystifies me, and I'm excited to watch.
Which I think is hilarious
the
because
demo.
The yoke is the part that should be terrifying. We're headed into the good part. We're headed into the easy part. All right. So let's jump in. So for this section, you are going to need a darning needle. Allow me to use my beautiful rosewood thingy, and of course all my big darning needles are currently, this may be a problem. Do you have one? Mine is currently sitting
Mine
next to my
is
noodle.
the cat tin from last Christmas.
We're so swaggy.
Is that one?
That's perfect.
There you
Thank
go.
you. Okay, and so we'll need a darning needle. We're also going to need some scrap yarn. You can use, they have these old tools that kind of look like diaper pins, and you can still buy them today. And you can use them to put all your old stitches on, or not all your sleeve stitches on.
Like this thing?
Yeah, but it'll be bigger. It'll be like 4 inches long. And so you can use that, but it's going to be a little bit awkward if you want to try your sweater on.
Gotcha.
To see like how it's fitting in the body.
And do you recommend trying it on?
Okay. Oh, yes. So this technique that we're going to show about splitting the sleeves, you basically can use the same technique, scrap yarn, darning needle, to put a lifeline into your knitting, and that will, you can take your needle out, you've got all your stitches saved in place with the yarn.
Okay.
And then you can try on your project, you've got no needle, no cable, you're not worried about anything coming off. And then it's very easy to put your needle back on because you just follow the path that the yarn took. Exactly.
Okay.
Nice and easy. One of my favorite techniques. So yes, I totally would recommend trying it on as you go, especially as you get to the bottom of the body, because you want it to make sure that it hits
where
in
it
the right
hits
spot.
you. Yes.
Yep. And then if you're going to try doing any of the additional techniques that I'm going to talk about tonight, you might also want to try it on.
Okay.
Yeah. So for my sweater, once I got to the part where I started increasing for my waist, I tried it on every time I increased and basically was like, okay, it's at the point that I want it to be width-wise, and then I'm just going to knit straight from that point.
I remember you sending a photo to the staff chat of you with like
slightly more clothes, slightly more clothes. Yes, accurate. Okay. All right, so I've got my scrap yarn here.
Question, does the weight of the scrap yarn matter? Like if you're knitting with worsted, should you use worsted, or does it not really matter?
So it's kind of a mixed answer. The idea that ideally you want a yarn that is actually kind of close to the thickness of the needle that you're using.
Okay.
Oh, at least up to worsted.
Okay.
If you're working with a finer yarn, you maybe don't need to go that high.
Right.
Because you don't want it to be like super full, but it is a lot easier to grab those stitches back onto the needle if you have.
So I wouldn't use a fingering with this Aran weight yarn, but I could definitely use, like, I've got lots of super bulky in the basement.
Yeah, whatever's going to work. As you can see, I have this one. It is very fine. It is probably not ideal, but it also is not going to explode if you use it.
No.
Yeah. So generally speaking, the properties I go for are a slipperier yarn if possible, so something like a cotton, because then the fibers are less likely to stick to the stitches that are on your needle. And then also, something that is kind of a medium weight, approaching kind of where you are for the needles.
Could you use embroidery floss, or would that?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
And actually some people use the stuff you use for your teeth.
Floss, like dental floss.
Yeah, dental floss.
Okay.
For me, I just find I get frustrated trying to like if the stitches shrink down a little bit in size or what have you, I
Right.
find it irritating to try and put it back on, but
Right.
you totally can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Retreat Junkie says, do you remove the knitting needles and then replace them every time you place a lifeline? Isn't that a lot of extra work? Do you do this if you made a sweater with fingering too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally, again, there's another cheater answer. If you're like me and you accidentally own like 4 kinds of every needle, then I will usually slip it so that I have like my sweater over a 40-inch and a 32 or something. And that's usually enough for me that if any stitches are going to come off, it's only a couple and I don't mind picking them back up.
Right.
But if you're a nervous knitter or if you're new to the technique or new to picking up your stitches if they drop, then yeah, pop it onto the lifeline, tie the lifeline into a knot. That's how you're going to be the most secure.
Yes, yes.
And will caution against tears later on down the road. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, what's the stitch in time saves 9?
Yeah. Yes.
So
exactly. All right. So let's talk about splitting.
So do we need to adjust the camera at all, or are you?
We may want to.
Okay.
What do you think about switching spots?
Yes, I think so. So you come sit there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna
enjoy
not
the entertainment.
step.
Right.
Yes.
Now I'm like, oh no, I don't.
Where's my thing?
Where's all my stuff? Okay. So, and then do we want to? Oh, sorry, retreat junkie. Wasn't the answer you were looking for.
I can angle this down more. Does that work?
Yeah. Let's. Okay. Yeah. Folks, you can see it, and they can't see us. Time delayed on the computer, which is great.
Yes.
Okay. So let me grab some scrap yarn. Actually, let me assess where Caitlin is in her pattern. Because this is Caitlin's knitting. She has been so gracious to let us use her.
And a lovely, that's a very Caitlin color.
It is indeed. All right. I think she's kind of almost.
Shall I move the computer out of the way? I can do that, and that way you've got a bit of a clearer
if you like
spot.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Behind the scenes.
Woohoo.
Yes. I also wore yoga pants that I didn't think were going to be on screen today, but that's fine.
Caitlin says there's a beginning of round marker with bigger beads on it.
Oh. I think it fell out.
Oh no.
We'll find it for you, Caitlin. And I'll help you figure out where your beginning of round is. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to knit to what will be a sleeve marker. I can tell because this section here is smaller than this section here. So that's going to be a sleeve here and then on the reverse side as well. And I'll just do the first sleeve.
Caitlin says it's fine.
Okay. Thanks, Caitlin.
And if you guys can't see this well, let me know and we can adjust the camera again.
Okay. Oh, this is a beautiful color. Oh, while we're doing this, Katie, I'm going to mention that tip that you liked.
Yes.
So much. So if you are struggling to tell in your short row section when you're working back and forth, what side is the right side, what side is the wrong side, put a locking stitch marker on the right side so that the bulk of it is sitting on the front. Or, sorry, the right side.
Well, it wasn't just on the right side and the wrong side. It was putting the locking stitch marker where your short row should be.
Yes.
So that you know approximately where to look for to pick up that stitch.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
that really helped me.
All right. So I have made it to my first sleeve marker. And so now I'm going to need, oh geez, I'm just destroying Caitlin's stuff. It's okay, we'll find it later. Where Caitlin's watching from home, just biting her nails.
Oh my
Terrified.
God, what are they doing?
So I've got my scrap yarn and I have my darning needle. And I like to thread my darning needle like so. I pinch around the narrowest part of the needle. I pull it out and then I do like kind of a motion. And sort of squeegee it in that way. And that way you can get a much thicker yarn. Exactly. And you don't have to make sure you have a needle threader with you at all I'm just gonna read the pattern real
Oh,
quick.
yes. Here,
Make sure I
take that
actually give the
over
correct instructions
there.
instead of what I would just do. Okay, so yes, we're gonna slip these next stitches onto our waist yarn. So here is our waist yarn, and just like when you are slipping in general in any pattern, unless told otherwise, you always slip purlwise.
Why is that?
Because if you slip knitwise, it actually turns the stitch around.
Got you.
And visually that will make a difference, but it will also make a difference often in the tightness of the stitch, especially if that's repeated.
Mm-hmm.
So rule of thumb, unless the project says otherwise, sorry, the pattern, always slip purlwise.
Okay.
Because that does nothing to the stitch except move it from one to the other.
Got you.
Yeah. So here we go. Slip, slippity, slip.
Good to know.
This time I'm going to try not to lose the marker. Because, oh, I'm a good friend.
Well, and I was going to say, oh no, or did you do it
good.
properly?
No, just it fell out.
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah, this is what terrifies me. Well,
oh, it's fine. So if it's really scary and you don't want to do it the way I'm doing, which is just to slip it one over, load them all up first.
Got you. Just slide it through with that.
So I'll do that for these last ones.
Place.
Yeah. So you can see you can do it that way. It's a little harder because there's a needle in the way.
Right, but
yeah, so you can do the whole thing and then have it come off. That's not a problem. And you'll notice in a second that while I'm kind of fussing around with this, while I'm going to do the next step, I'm going to grab my needle and push this down onto the cable, and the same thing here, because your stitches are less likely to fall off.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I have all of my stitches here on my scrap yarn. Next step is to tie a knot.
Yes.
Very important because then it won't come out. I usually, because I'm less afraid, will tie kind of a knot that comes back out very easily. But if you are new to this, tie yourself a good and proper knot. And
do you tend to reuse waist yarn or no? Because that's why it's called waist yarn.
Pass me my little accessory kit.
This.
Yeah. Look at my ugly pocket of random yarns I have. And normally I have thicker ones, but they're all in projects right now.
Okay.
So sorry.
So yes, you do reuse waist yarn.
I do.
Okay.
And like if I'm finishing a project and I'm playing yarn chicken and I have one yarn chicken and there's like that much left.
Yes.
Into the little thingy it goes.
Right.
Yeah. Or if I accidentally put too much yarn for my cast on, into the thing it goes.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's too little to do anything with, but it's enough that you might be able to
use it down the road. Got you.
Because like I can use it for thumb, for sleeves, a bunch of different reasons.
Got you. Got you.
All right. So I have my stitches on my this is how you do a lifeline too. So you would do the same thing.
So this is the same. So would you when you're trying it on, like would you try it on at this point or not really because you don't have arms yet?
You could. Yeah, you could if you wanted to. I probably, if you were worried, if your row gauge was really off when you did your gauge swatch, and you were a little, like specifically the row gauge, not the stitch, but if the row gauge was really off, then I would maybe try it on.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about it.
And Caitlin's suggesting leftover yarn is great to save a small bit for mending.
That is a great idea. I think I've multiple times decided that's something I'm going to do and then I immediately forget
to do it. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to use this in something else. Okay, so we have done that.
And I want to point out too, Caitlin's sweater looks different because she was telling me because this doesn't have the open. Yeah. Because she's doing it differently right now because she doesn't want another Felix exactly the same.
Hacking the pattern.
Yes.
Which is another reason why we love this pattern so much.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to. Oh, Caitlin, what size are you knitting?
Caitlin, what? I think she said she's knitting this one. She says the 48. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is that one.
The middle
I think.
one. Okay.
Yes.
So that means...
Do you want me to double check that?
Yeah, that would be good. Because then, Caitlin won't wind up with really tiny sleeves.
Yeah, that would not be great.
I'm a good friend.
Yes. How do I... Where's... Oh, it's here.
Yeah,
I'm like,
sorry,
where is it?
Double side print.
Yes, it is. It is the third
Alrighty.
number.
So in that case, I'm going to cast on... Alright. I'm going to cast on my stitches. So, in this pattern, you cast on twice. Where's my yarn? Here we go. We do a cast on, we put a marker down, and then we do some more cast on.
Sorry, so you've just taken off the sleeve stitches.
Yes.
And now you have to cast on
because this is where the sleeve is going to come out.
Right.
This is just a little bit too small.
So you need to cast on additional stitches
to bridge the gap.
Okay, and then are those going to go on the waist yarn too?
No, they're going to go on the needle because they will be part of the body.
Got you. Okay.
And then when we join for this, or when we do the sleeves, we'll go back in and we'll grab them, in a sense.
Okay. I don't understand that, but that's okay.
These are so good. You've got such good questions. Okay. So casting on is obviously going to be a little bit different when you are working in the middle of a project as opposed to when you're starting, because it's like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Yeah. So
I have no long tail.
There's a bunch of different cast-ons, and we're actually going to use a cast-on that I do not recommend ever using at the beginning of a project. It's super tight, super inflexible, and if you use it, then you're going to struggle with being able to fit the edge over anything.
Gotcha.
Right? It's a very common one when people are starting to learn to knit.
Okay.
And like a traditional sort of cast-on. So it's very handy, but only in this case. So thumb gusset, underarm, where you don't want the fabric to stretch too much.
Right. Right.
So it's called the back loop cast-on, E-cast-on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's really simple. It's sort of like, if you learned how to knit when you were in elementary school,
this is probably
how you learned.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna stop looking at comments for a second and watch me. And the other thing we should mention, which I don't think has come up at all, is there are different styles of knitting.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you knit differently I knit like Caitlin, and you knit different. You knit the way my kid knits. You knit continental.
Oh, no, actually, I knit the same way as Caitlin, but I can knit continental.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I know. Okay. I'm not as well as I knit English style. So
yes.
That's
okay. That's what my kid was telling me.
But I can knit continental.
And then there's Portuguese knitting too,
yes,
which is just
around the neck and very involved.
Yes. Yeah. And two hands at once. And I'm sure
I sweat too much for that. I can't have it going around my neck. I'm a 4-season knitter. Okay. All right. So we're going to cast on our underarm stitches.
Sorry. No, and people can't see. I think I know how to do this.
Hey! All right. So we're going to make a loop around the thumb. So I've got my yarn in my left hand and my needle in my right. And I'm going to make a loop around my thumb. And I'm just going to put that loop on.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I totally know how to do this.
Yep. So loop. And on, and I'm not actually paying attention to how many stitches this is, so I am going to count real quickly.
And you're supposed to cast on
6, I believe.
6. Yes.
Okay. And now we have to put in a new marker. I'm going to use this very convenient one that's right here. And this is because the beginning of our round, from the start of the project, the beginning of the round has been on the shoulder. But now that we're transitioning to a body part of the sweater, beginning of the round is actually going to be under the arm because it's kind of hidden there. So it was on the back shoulder before, where people are less likely to look, and now we're going to put it under the arm
where no one is going to look.
Exactly. If they are, you have my permission to hit them. And also your arm's mostly going to be sitting there. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we have our first round of stitches to cast on. I'm going to put my stitch marker on. Then I'm going to cast the other remaining stitches. Okay.
So I'm going to make one suggestion to you here. Can we move this slightly close? No. I just want to move the camera a little bit closer so people can really see what you're doing here.
Isn't that what the kids do on the TikToks?
I don't even know.
Sorry, there's a teenager looking at me right now.
Yeah, my kid is like sitting on the floor.
You get it?
I got it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All right. There's my hands. Yeah. Okay. That seems.
I'm just gonna hold this here for.
Do you want?
No.
Oh no. It's
no.
See this camera holding thing is perfect for looking down. Not so much for looking straight at.
No. And this is what I struggle with when I'm doing like the sewing demos, and I'm like, yes, it's perfect for that. And then you try to like reposition it so that it's up, and you have there's a way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do the remaining stitches, and again, making sure, just like in regular casting on when you join the round, don't let these twist around. You want them to be lying flat. It's a little less obvious. We don't have that lovely long tail.
Right.
So just make sure that those are nice and flat. And then I'm going to finish and cast on some more. Perfect. And now that I have all my stitches cast on, I'm going to load these guys back up onto the needle. Grab my yarn, making sure it's in the back of the work and that the ridge hasn't twisted. And I'm going to start knitting.
Okay.
And then we just keep going until we hit the second sleeve. Yeah.
Until you get to the next sleeve.
And then you just repeat what you did again.
Got you.
And then you're going to knit across the front, back. I don't know. You're going to knit across
and
the next
gives you
section.
the exact. I guess if you're nervous, you can count.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because it gives you the numbers of what you're supposed to. Yeah. This pattern is. I don't have a great experience with many patterns, but this one definitely it's got a lot of really good things. I love that it tells you how many you are increasing by the end of each.
Yeah, I love a good stitch count.
Like it's a very, very well written pattern.
I just want to call attention real quick the fact that this guy's kind of open and a little big, and so is this one. That's totally normal. You did something very different on this side of the stitch compared to this side. So if your stitches are looking a little loose compared to the ones next to them, that's fine. When we come back to the sleeve, we're going to have to pick a bunch of stitches up, new technique, and there may be a hole in your work, and all you have to do is just take some scrap yarn from your project, not random scrap yarn.
Yes.
You're good.
Sorry.
Don't worry, this stuff is indestructible. And then I had holes in here and in here that weren't, sorry, you can't see. I had holes in here as well as in here that were not part of the lace design.
Right.
And all I did was I just took my yarn and I just sewed it up a little bit.
Got you. Okay.
Super easy, totally common. There are tricks around it, but honestly, I can't be bothered to look them up every time I knit something.
Got you.
I am confident enough in my ability to weave in ends that I just do that at the end.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Forget that
And once you block the sweater, it will change how everything lies. So if you're worried about things being like
exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So that would be splitting for the body and the sleeves.
Yes.
And then the next instructions are basically knit. Knit until the sweater is where you want it to be. Less the ribbing.
Let's do this.
Oh, we're going to have to go back down in a second, but
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Never mind.
Backward.
Sorry.
I'm having flashbacks to the
oh my god,
the first episode with the camera coming
and
down.
I died watching you guys.
Oh,
it was hilarious.
It was quite something, I have to say.
Yes.
All right, so
there
I'm
we
gonna
go.
put this away.
Okay.
So for the body of the sweater.
Oh, because this is the part you said you were gonna draw some things.
Oh yeah, I've got all my demo pieces and whatnot.
Right.
Y'all, you tell me, you give me a prompt, and I will show up.
And do you need my needle anymore?
No,
I'm gonna put that away.
Before it disappears.
Yes.
Into my bag. I'm just kidding. No, so
I know where to find you.
yeah, that's true. So if you don't want to
blocking, make the lace holes closer to the same size.
Yes.
Okay.
If you did them all the same way, / maybe if you forgot, like I did on my project, I definitely forgot a few lace holes and went in and picked them up on the row below.
Got you. Okay.
They should, if you want to, you can use a stainless steel T-pin or anything that won't rust when it gets wet.
And that will help because you've got that blocking video.
Yeah. So check out the blocking video on our YouTube channel. And what you could do is when you lay it flat to block, just go in there with your T-pins and encourage that lace hole, if there's one in particular that's being a little annoying.
Okay.
Encourage it to be a little bit more open.
Got you. Oh.
So,
and we've got one more question here, and it's asking, are you, and I think this is what you're explaining next, will you be explaining how to make a full bust adjustment or the knitting turn for that?
Yeah, that's what we're diving into next. This is going to be a long one. At some point, Katie's going to kick me out of her house. But honestly,
my family's going to come home at some point, and they're going to kick you out.
All right. So if we don't get to everything tonight, we might not get to the waist shaping tonight, then we can get to it next week. I think what we had initially done was book 5 weeks for this.
We have booked 5 weeks, and my quilt along doesn't start until 5 weeks after to give space.
Wonderful.
So if you need that 5 weeks, we've got it.
Yeah. So what if we don't get to waist shaping tonight, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. And then also Caitlin has a wonderful slightly altered rib that she puts at the bottom of her sweater that barring any unforeseen circumstances,
you guys
hopefully she'll be able to demonstrate next week, because this knit-along keeps throwing stuff at us. But what I would like to show in the meantime is I came hard on week 1 and I said, I'm going to show you how to do German short rows.
Okay. And that's different from the short rows we've done already.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you've already done the wrap and turn, that's fine. Keep using the wrap and turn instead of the short rows, instead of the German short rows for any other short rows in this project.
Okay.
Because you kind of want that consistency. But if you want to learn a new technique, that's what I'm going to show you right now.
Okay.
I like them because it's pretty simple. It's a little easier to resolve than the wrap and turn, because you don't have to pick up that wrap.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do a quick little demo of a German short row. I'm just going to go down a little bit so I can pivot slightly more. So, German short row. See, I had planned this. I was going to do the whole neckline with you guys, and then I couldn't make it.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, so I'm just going to catch up to my beginning of round marker, and I'll just do a little bit of short rows. I'm not going to demonstrate like the full sweater techniques. We've already done that. So again, short rows are back and forth, sort of to raise part of the section while leaving the other section alone, the same. So let's knit a couple stitches. Go. And I'm going to do my German short row. So German short row, you wait.
Have to think about it first.
Yeah, man. Okay.
Teaching things is very different than doing them.
Because, oh my God. And that's the thing is I did a whole bunch of German short rows this week, like literally like on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I was doing the bust adjustment. Okay. So I'm going to knit one more stitch. We're going to turn.
Okay.
I'm going to slip some yarns in the front, slip the stitch back over.
And purlwise.
Yep, purlwise, always purlwise. And then instead of doing something fussy between the needles, which we normally do, to keep literally this from happening when it's not supposed to, you're going to pull to the back, and it's going to take that one stitch and turn it into like a double stitch almost.
Right. Yeah.
And then because I'm on the purl side, I need to bring my yarn back to the front. And now I can purl. So let me purl. Same number of stitches. Tighten up that first one. There we go. I knit a lot with my fingertips, and I have learned over the years it's not great for demonstrating purposes.
I was going to say no, and your yarn is like so close to the tips of your needles.
Yes, that's why I knit with the tip of with my fingertips a lot.
Yes,
because they I can get quite close, and then I'm not constantly pulling or stretching my stitches.
Right.
But you kind of have to be on it.
Yeah.
And then it obviously takes a lot of practice to like do it without screaming existentially at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got to here. I am going to turn my work again.
Yep.
And it's the same thing as before. Yarn needs to be in the front. It was already in the front for the purl.
Right.
Yarn needs to be in front for the knit, or for
this one.
Yes. It's almost past my bedtime. Then I'm going to slip purlwise again, yank the yarn to the back, and I'm going to be knitting back so I don't have to do anything fancy with the yarn. And then I'm going to knit.
That is less fussy than the wrap and turn.
Less fussy. And this I can memorize. I have to look up the wrap and turn every time.
Yes.
Because I always lose track of where your yarn's supposed to go next.
Yes.
So I'm going to do another quick demo of these guys.
I absolutely kept Caitlin's video open while I was doing the wrap and turn.
So I'm here at this weird double stitch, and what's ironic is it actually looks a lot like if you forget to wrap your yarn correctly when you're clipping.
Got you, yeah.
And I'm just going to knit into it, whoops, like it's one, and that's all you have to do to resolve it. And then I'll demonstrate the technique again, so I'll do 2 more. Stitch marker off. Turn. Yarn in front, it's already in front. Then I'm going to slip purlwise, yank to the back, and then get ready to work the next round or row. So I'm purling, so I need to bring my yarn to the front and then purl back. Okay. And then I'm not going to go all the way.
So you could do the German short rows in place of doing the wrap and turn.
Bingo. Yeah. And I usually do.
Okay.
Sometimes, depending on the kind of pattern, the German short rows can land slightly differently.
Right.
In terms of location, they might be 1 stitch over. So for like a very small thing, like I just knit the body of a very cute frog.
Yes.
And his belly was slightly off to one side, but not really so much you could notice. And in a sweater, I don't think you'd really notice.
No.
So I'm here at my double stitch again. I'm going to purl, hopefully without splitting my yarn. Great. And then I'll knit another 2. And we turn, yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yank to the back, get ready to do the next round, which is a knit, so I don't have to do anything else. And then start knitting again.
Okay, so
questions?
No questions here.
Okay.
So then are you going to explain why you would use this?
Oh, it's easier, and I'm lazy.
No, for the
yes,
bust.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, okay. This is where we come to my art project.
The knitting's not your art project?
No, this is my art project. This is my craft. Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick little demonstration as to why we might have this.
Yes, okay. I'm just trying to make sure that it's very clear on the video, and you're good.
It's good, okay.
Yes.
I used a Sharpie for a reason. Okay, so when we're doing bust shaping, short row shaping, what we're doing is we want to add an extra, basically a wedge, just on the underside of the bust.
Okay. It's exactly like doing a dart.
I guess, this is why
sewing.
It's very lovely that you're here, because I have never done that.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Yeah, we're doing a wedge.
Well, it'll be the full bust adjustment, which so you're taking out, yes.
Okay.
It makes sense to me.
Yay! That's great, because I have yet to attempt one. So.
Retreat Junkie says, I just placed a lifeline, removed my needles, tried it on, and it fits. Thank you for this idea. Definitely worthwhile. But what if I want to change the neckline to a V-neck?
You can't. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's going to be more painful, because if you're doing a V-neck, you're working flat, so back and forth. You have to do shaping for the front. Sorry. So if you're doing a V-neck, I'm going to use my pencil instead.
Do you want another piece of paper?
No, it's okay. I'll do it on. We've already. Caitlin did a wonderful job explaining why we do short row for the neck, so I don't need this guy. So if you're going to do a V, you would have to work your lovely raglans and your short rows, and starting from here, increases to shape
the V-neck.
The V-neck.
Yeah.
And none of it's in the round. It's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Totally doable, but we already hated the fact that we had to do raglan and short row shaping at the same time. This would just add a whole lot. So you could, depending on your skill level, wing it, or alternatively just find another raglan style sweater
With a V-neck.
With a V-neck, and then if you wanted to, you could add in the lace instead of
doing their increases.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So sort of do a mashup of the two.
Yes.
That's probably going to be the easiest way to do this, as opposed to altering the Felix itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could sub in those instructions, but that'd probably be less fun.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, maybe next sweater. Yeah.
Yes. Not this one. We've already done the neckline. We're not going back. Although you could if you wanted to. Just be a pain in the butt. Okay. So let's talk briefly about sort of what we're going to be doing. So we have our beginning of round marker.
Is now under the arm.
Yep. And one second, I'm just envisioning what direction we're knitting in. We're knitting this way. Okay. So our little BOR, beginning of round marker, is here. And what we would like to do is build this wedge by knitting to a certain point, then knitting back to the same matching point.
Right.
And then knitting, this is going to get a lot bigger than the actual, yeah.
Yes.
For size
illustration purposes.
Yes, exactly. We're going to knit back to that point, resolve that short row, and knit a little bit further. And then we will knit back, resolve, knit a little further, back. And so it's going to create this wedge that will add fabric to the front of your sweater. And so if you're large busted, you may, like I said before, have that sort of fun result of your shirts riding up in front. So by adding this extra fabric, you're essentially allowing that bottom hemline to stay more evenly matched with the back.
Got you.
The bottom hemline.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So there is a bit of math on this, and actually I didn't talk to you about this. Feeling like we could probably also do a little blog post so that people don't have to
watch the whole video
or take notes or what have you.
Yeah.
So essentially,
there is already a Felix blog post,
okay.
So we could put this information in that.
Wonderful.
I'll you give me the information and
I'll
make sure it ends up in the blog
have
post.
Scratch notes here, and I will make them make sense, and then we can post them. So hopefully by this time next week, we'll be able to say, check out the blog for more details. In the meantime, though, you want to, if you remember when we chose our size on week 1, we measured under the arms. Under the arms, but above
the bust.
Yeah, above the bust. We did our upper bust measurement, which would be up here. However, if you possess boobs, you should do a full bust measurement, and that would be at the widest part of your bust, because you want to compare the measurements between these two spots. If it's only a couple inches, don't worry about it. You don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Frankly, you don't have to worry about it at all. Caitlin has not done any bust adjustments. If this is your first sweater, if you want an easy knit and you don't want to have to think about it, do not worry about this part. If you're an experienced knitter and you're like, I really want to take my knitting to the next level and what have you, that's when you might do some bust shaping. Same thing with the waist shaping. There's no obligation. You can log off right now. Well, don't leave us, please. But if you want to do some alterations to make it a better fit, that's what you would pull into your repertoire. Okay, so this is where the math comes in. So you would measure your two different measurements, do the comparison, and then based on the number of the difference between these two measurements, as well as the size that you're knitting, you're going to, based on the difference between these two measurements, you're going to either go for your first round 65%, 70%, or 75% across.
Okay.
And then back that same way. So you're going to want to mark the center of your sweater with a little locking stitch marker so that you have a point of reference.
Yes.
And I was very lucky that my size is 100 stitches.
Super easy.
It was so easy. So what I did was, so again, this will be on the blog post. So first of all, the difference between, so if it's only maybe 2-3 inches, you would do the 75%. If it was 3 to 4 inches, you would do the 70%. And if you are 4 or more inches, which I am, you would do the 65% away. And then that allows you more room to do more short rows as you go across. If you start further over, you can't do as many short rows.
Yes.
Because you're going to run out of
room
stitches. Yeah.
To work with. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also the number of rows that you do, the number of short rows that you do will also change.
Yes.
Adding more depth or not. And so we'll have those figures. And I think it is for like about 2 to 3 inches, you can do 4 rows with 10 stitches in between each turn. If you've got 3 or 4 inches of difference, you can do 8 rows, 5 stitches between each turn. And then if you have more than 4 inches, you're going to do 12 rows and you're going to do 5 stitches between each turn. So for my 100 stitch front, yay numbers, I knit 65 stitches. I did my German short row. And then I came back to the center, which was 15 stitches. And then I went 15 stitches over again so that I was sort of at that, the same, they're mirrored across the center of the sweater.
Yes.
Did my German short row. Then I turned around again and knit back to where I had done the first one.
Yes.
Resolved it. And then I knit another 5 stitches.
Yes.
Did a new one.
Yes.
Turn. Go back to where the other one was. Resolve it. Do another 5 and so forth.
I'm only like...
I'm going to write it out.
Yeah. I'm like vaguely following what you're saying.
Katie's face for the first part of that was like, yep. And then for the second part of that was like, I trust you.
Caitlin did say that last when I came in to have someone supervise my first set of short rows, and that was just the wrap-in turns. Yeah. And Caitlin was like, "You have to trust the pattern."
Yes.
And I was like, "Okay, yes."
Trust the Emily. Oh no, please don't trust the Emily.
I taught last night, and my student said to me, instead of measure twice, cut once, it's going to be ask you twice, cut once. And I'm like, I need that on a t-shirt.
Okay, so that's essentially a lowdown on how you would do your bust shaping to form that wedge that comes on the underside of the cup. And the reason why it's kind of vague is because everybody is going to be knitting a different size and everyone's got different measurements for their bust. So you kind of have to combine the size you're knitting, so how many stitches you have in total across the front of your sweater,
with your bust measurement differences.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's a little vague. I'll try and make it a little more obvious and specific, written out.
Do you have? Are we done with the diagram?
I think so.
Okay, I'm
we'll
save the waist shaping for next week. Yeah. We should probably wrap up because this video is about 50 minutes long, and we want to try to keep them. No. We want to try to keep them like manageable.
Yeah.
So I know with quilting, like there's, for any quilters that are watching this and don't know about this, Robert Kaufman has a great app that does all the math for you. Is there a resource? I'm sure there is, like that for knitting.
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation? Is this a question that you're gonna have an answer for me for next week?
So there isn't a be all and end all.
Yes.
In this particular instance.
Yes.
When it comes to like finding patterns or comparing yarns, or seeing how people have knit something, Ravelry is kind of the be all and end all at this moment. But for that kind of calculation, it's a lot more give and takey. Okay. Especially because when you're quilting, 5 inches is 5 inches is 5 inches.
Yes.
When you're knitting, 20 stitches is not 4 inches or whatever.
Yes. Okay.
But what I would recommend instead of relying on one particular website would be to Google the phrase that you're looking for. So short row bust shaping or waist shaping knitting. Yes, don't just Google waist shaping. It's depressing. Google waist shaping knitting, and it's exciting again. And there's no Kardashians. It's great. So, and then what you're going to see is blog posts. And
where people are like, and this is how you do the math.
Yeah. And so you'll see, for instance, when I was prepping for waist shaping this evening, I was reviewing some of my notes, and I had referred to Andrea Rangel.
Okay.
Andrea Rangel. I'm really bad at figuring out how to pronounce her name.
Okay.
And then also Amy Herzog, who is a well-known knitter she has a whole website. Here's the answer to your question.
Oh.
5 minutes later. So Amy Herzog is a knitwear designer, and she has
a website.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That it's called Custom Fit, and it's basically a pattern design website. And you put your measurements in, and it spits out the pattern custom to you.
Ooh.
It is a paid website. You have to pay for the patterns because obviously it's a lot of work.
Noelle, and we appreciate people that do the work and they should be paid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that would be an option. I don't think the website will do that for like any pattern. I think it's mostly the custom fit patterns, but certainly her blog, Amy Herzog, Herzog, would be a great resource in terms of fit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's the answer.
Okay.
I got there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So
yeah,
I guess
do your homework. If you do not want to do any shaping, then just go for it, man.
Yeah.
Just knit your body. There's a recommended measurement, but I would recommend trying it on.
Yeah, putting in that lifeline, trying it on.
Yeah, everybody loves a different place for a sweater to hit.
And we're getting to the point next week just up to where we're ribbing, because Caitlin's going to hopefully show us her ribbing method.
If you're impatient, you can do the ribbing method that's in the pattern.
Julie is like, I think Julie's got like a sleeve done already. Julie is so
yeah.
Run That Run says she also has a book, if you like the book world, Ultimate Sweater Book by Amy Herzog.
Yes.
We should see if that's one of the ones that we can get in.
She has several books actually.
Yeah.
And
books are so difficult to order.
Oh my God. Well, okay. I was there, man. I was there when the big Canadian book distributor, they retired or they closed down their business, and we were like,
what do we do now?
Where do one get books? Yeah.
And Run That Run says, thanks for the bust shaping. This will be a first for me to run. So
good luck.
Awesome.
You can always reach out to us, right?
Yes. Yeah. You're in this weekend.
I'm here on Saturday.
Okay. Yes. So Emily is in on Saturday if you need her.
Yeah.
I think Caitlin's usually in on Mondays.
I would message the shop or give us a call to make sure that somebody's in.
Don't come when I'm there, because I'm just gonna be like, yes, look, it looks so good.
Don't come to the store with serger questions when I'm here.
No.
And
you can probably hear my kid giggling off camera, the peanut gallery down there.
All right.
Have a great evening.
Yeah.
We'll get this up, and then Emily will get me the instructions, and we'll put it up on the blog.
Yeah, if it wasn't coherent.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you soon.